Hello and welcome to another Project Falcon Punch Top 5 of 2017. I am your host Dan, and with me today I have my friend Dom.
Hello Dan, thanks for inviting me on again.
Yeah, third year running, mate. How have you been?
It is, yeah, I've been very good, thank you. Yeah, I don't know where the time's gone, you know.
I got to admit, like I was just saying earlier before we started recording, that this is the sort of thing that you don't realise how quick the time goes until you do another one of these and like, oh shit, the year's already over.
I know, and it makes me feel bad as well. It makes me realise how many games have come out and how many games I've sort of still missed out on, even though I think I've got a good top 5, you know.
Yeah.
Being a dad now and everything, it's just limited time for gaming. But, you know, we're spoilt for choice. I can't complain. It's different to how I was back when the NES was around when I was a kid.
Okay, then I'm interested to hear it because, as always, I don't know any of these lists prior to going into them. So, would you like to just go straight in with your number 5 then?
Yeah, number 5, I've gone for Cuphead. If you would have asked me at the start of the year, you know, what would your top 5 be, I wouldn't have expected to put in a side-scrolling platformer or a game I've never heard of, you know, up until a few months ago when it came out. But for me, I grew up playing games like Mega Man and Mario Brothers, and I've got sort of used to those sort of brutal platformers, you know, over the years. And Cuphead is nice because it reminds me of those early games like Mega Man, but it also has a really cool art style. And part of it sort of reminds me of Rayman as well, how colourful it is. And
yeah, the animation's very sort of like bouncy like Rayman as well, now you mention it.
Yeah, it's one of them games, it punishes you for your mistakes, but once you learn the game, once you learn the patterns of the enemies and things like that, it's very rewarding, you know, to finally beat a boss that you've been stuck on and things like that. And it's just different as well. It's a, you know, a nice indie game.
Have you played this mostly in single player or multiplayer?
Single player. Yeah, I haven't done much multiplayer. To be honest, I don't play much multiplayer other than you know, competitive games like League of Legends, even World of Warcraft. I tend to play more PvP, you know. So yeah, I haven't even tried multiplayer. And I like the way that those hard games are coming back into the fore. You know, they're becoming more popular. I think with the rise of Dark Souls, you know, we've had so much hand holding in games over the past sort of decade or so. I think people are realising now, gamers are seeing it's quite refreshing to play games that have a good difficulty curve, you know.
Yeah.
They're not too easy. You know, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite because I'm playing World of Warcraft, which arguably has got easier and more accessible over the years, but my gaming habits have changed as well, you know. So it's nice to see a game like that that's difficult but very rewarding at the same time.
Yeah, definitely. That's a nice solid number 5 you got there, Dom. So what have you got as your number 4?
Number 4 is Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I really like this game. I mean, I like sort of, there's a lot of Norse and Celtic mythology in the game, so I already like the sort of setting and the ethos. Not so much the gameplay on this one, but it was more the storyline and the core themes, you know. One of the things that pulled me in was it's like a battle in Senua's mind, you know. She has the game touches into
PTSD,
mental health.
isn't it? Yeah.
That's it, yeah. And I really liked it when I bought the game a few months back. I think the developers were giving all profits to mental health charity for that
cool,
day, so
yeah.
I thought that was really good, you know. And it's not the longest game in the world, but to be honest,
Yeah, it's about 5 hours, isn't it?
well, I'm a little bit longer than that, but I listened to all the extra bits of the story and all the spoken word parts and everything, so I'm a bit longer than that. But
It's a visual treat though, isn't it? It looks amazing.
yeah, I was going to say that. It looks absolutely stunning. I mean, my graphics card's like 4 or 5 years old now, and it just looks amazing, you know. And it is quite a serious game, but the environment reminded me a little bit of Tomb Raider, how it feels, you know. It's very explorative. The puzzles are pretty good. If I'm being honest, at points, you know, I felt like where you've got to find symbols and things, I was just walking around randomly.
Yeah, that I'd say that is the weakest point in the game, where you just kind of, like you say, just walking around trying to line up these like symbols to make them like form a shape. End up walking around aimlessly, don't you? Sort of.
Yeah.
That is, I would say that is the worst part of the game, but everything else around it is great, I think.
Yeah, and I would have liked to have seen a bit more combat as well. There's a bit where you do these trials, and it seemed like a bit of a slog at one point. There wasn't much combat, and by the end of the game, I've really got a feel for how to parry properly. You know, when to stun the enemies, when to use heavy attacks, when to use light attacks, and dodge. And I really like the combat. I would have liked to have seen more of that and the ability to maybe upgrade and things like that. It felt more like a sort of glorified tech demo in many ways.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like the combat is very basic, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the combat, but I'd like to see, you know, leveling up and you know, different weapons and things like that. I mean, maybe they'll, with the success of the game, they'll do a sequel or something that's similar to it in the future, you know. But like I say, I really like the storyline. It was a different different experience when you're walking around and you've got the voices in your head telling you what to do. Some voices are telling you, oh yeah, go down that path. Others are saying like, oh no, turn back.
Yeah.
And I actually found at points when the voices were saying, oh, you're not going to make it, you're going to die, I was getting hit more. And that was really like jarring for me and quite an interesting experience, you know. And when they were urging you on, I found myself playing better. It was really bizarre, you know.
Do you play this with headphones as well?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I recommend if anyone listening to this, watching this, hasn't played it, I recommend playing it with headphones.
They even say that from the beginning, don't they? They come up with a little line saying, we recommend users play this with headphones.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you've got speakers on, you know, you can't hear whispers and things like that as well. So, but that's my number 4.
Nice one. Okay, mate, what have you got down as your number 3?
Number 3 is a game that's probably in everyone's top 5 this year, and it's been in all the top 5s I've seen on various online publications, and that's Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Awesome. I love this game.
It's great, and I mean, for someone like myself who, you know, I was a Nintendo fanboy growing up, I always had the Super Nintendo, N64 and everything, you know, in recent years become more of a PC gamer. You know, for me to put a Nintendo game in here, I know I did the other year with Mario Maker, but for me to put a Nintendo game in is quite a big thing because I don't play Nintendo games that much anymore. And Zelda Breath of the Wild for me was something the series desperately needed. I think the past few Zelda games became a bit stale for me, probably overly critical of it, but that's because Ocarina of Time was the best game for me, you know, growing up. So I'm going to be overly critical because the bar's been set really high by Nintendo. You know, for me, I felt like they were inspired by games almost like Minecraft in the way that you've got a survival mode and it's open world, and it was just a direction Zelda needed. I like the fact that you can go around, it's not linear, you know, you can go to Ganon's Castle right from the off if you want to. You probably aren't going to make it, but games like Skyrim as well, and that's not a bad thing. I did feel at times the only downside for me, and probably aren't many people that share my view, I did feel the game was too open at points. I felt like I was wandering around. I felt like the world was a little bit empty in places. I got to a point where I was like, oh, I've cut another shrine. I didn't want to go through hundreds of shrines. I know you don't have to, but I felt like I had to improve my heart counters and the stamina, isn't it? That's what it's been a while since I finished the game now. So those were the only minor points for me. I think everything else, it's such a breathtaking world. You can go where you want. And also discovery, you know, you'd be playing it and pick it up after a while and be like, oh, I found out something new again. And I don't get that from many games.
I've said this before, I think maybe another top 5 already, but the way the game doesn't like have these set pieces or anything like that, everything just happens sort of dynamically in the game, like where you're just walking around and you'll just see a dragon in the distance and you just think, whoa, what the fuck is that? You just want to go over to it.
Yeah, the first time I saw that, I went into like the icy part, like quite early on. I was already struggling. I didn't have enough food to sort of keep me going and keep me warm, but I saw this dragon, like you say, flying through the air. I was like, I have to go and I have to get that, you know, and I made myself do it, and I just managed to do it and get out alive. So that was really rewarding, you know. But it was just nice to have a game that taps into my childhood as well, you know, playing, I think the SNES Zelda was the first one I played, Link to the Past. You know, I like Zelda because the stories are different each time, but they're also very similar. You know, they're always talking about this hero that came before and things like that, and it makes you feel like you were that hero playing a previous Zelda game.
Yeah, there's so many throwbacks to past Zelda games in terms of like locations and environments. I don't know if you come across the ranch in Ocarina of Time, like there's the ruins of the exact ranch in Ocarina of Time.
That's it. I like all that, and I know some people have tried to put it all on a timeline, and this Ocarina of Time was 100 years before this, that and the other, but I don't worry about all that. I just, you know, they're linked in a way. Each one it tells a story of a new legend, and I really like it. You know, I couldn't not include it in my top 5.
I think it's a fantastic game. What have you got down for your number 2 then?
Number 2, I was pretty torn between second and first, but I've gone with these. So number 2, I've gone for, again, a game that I never thought I would be putting in here if you asked me at the start of the year, but I've gone for Total War Warhammer 2.
Oh, okay, nice one.
So for me, I should say this is the first Total War game I've ever played. Total War hasn't really appealed to me before. These sort of Total War Rome and Napoleon or whatever it is, it hasn't really appealed to me. I've played some strategy games over the years, Command and Conquer and StarCraft and things, but I like them, but I'm not a huge fan. But for me, what pulled me in for this one was the sort of big fantasy appeal. So you've got new races they've put in there which weren't in the original Total War Warhammer, which I played after I'd done number 2 because I liked it so much. So you've got like the High Elves, I think they are, and the Dark Elves, and you can have like dragons and phoenixes on the field of battle. And for me, I like all that that stuff, you know. So
Is this the main Warhammer? This isn't Warhammer 40k, is it?
no, it's not 40k. This is like the traditional Warhammer, the orcs and the elves and things. And what I like as well, like, so orcs weren't playable in this, but what they did a few months after release, they released a new map called Mortal Empires. So for people who owned Total War Warhammer 1 and 2, it bridged both maps together between both games and created sort of like a mega campaign where you could pick any race, basically. And that was really fun to do. I went back and played a campaign with the Wood Elves. Yeah, it's just a really good story as well. You're sort of in traditional Total Wars, I've been told, rather than going around and having to conquer everyone on the map to win, which can feel like a bit of a slog. This one, you have to build up resources. There's this sort of portal thing in the middle of the map, and you basically need to take control of that. And to do that, you need to build up resources. But you can see there's a bar at the top of the screen. You can see other races. You can see their progress. So you're like, oh, the Dark Elves are ahead of me. I better pick up my pace. So it feels like you're up against time. I really like that. Creative Assembly, I think, masters at what they do. I think the gameplay, it's the one game I've played this year that has been truly addictive. I'd sit down at 7, 8 o'clock at night and it'd be, before I know it, 1 in the morning. I'm like, oh my, I only felt like I've been playing it for an hour. It was taking up so much time. I was like, I've done this game once. I've got to sort of move on to other games now. I'm going to playing it too long. And, you know, in the space of a month, I think it's become my second most played game in Steam of all time.
Wow.
I think my website suffered a bit. I run Esports News UK, and I think it suffered a bit during that time. So I was playing Total War so much, but it's a great game. I'll probably get Total War Warhammer 3 when it comes out, because they said originally when Sacco announced it, it was going to be a trilogy. You know, so
was there like a bit of a cliffhanger into this one, like story-wise, or did it wrap up enough?
I think it does wrap up enough, but it leaves the door open. You know, there's so many possibilities with fantasy games like Warhammer and World of Warcraft of what they can do. I was close to putting it as my number one, and to be honest, I've played it more than my number one, but I had to put it in my top 5.
What could possibly top that then? Sounds like it's going to have to be pretty good to top what sounds like a game that you put so many hours into.
Yeah, and I think the game I've put in at number 1, where I haven't played it as much myself, I just had to put it at number 1 for the impact it's had on esports, and to come out of nowhere and have the impact it's had, and it's such a fun sort of new type of game. Number 1 for me is PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Nice. I thought you were going to say that after you just said the esports part.
I say it's a new game. Battle Royale games aren't new, really. You've had the Daisy and everything that came from Arma 2, but you know, unfortunately for them, they had all these different development issues. PlayerUnknown's has come in and just taken the mantle of Battle Royale games, and deservedly so. I think it's a really fun concept, the way that the walls are closing in on you, you know, so you have to move to new safe locations. It encourages you to encounter other players in sort of inventive and exciting ways, and just a really fun game. I think the only downside is it's very, very intensive, even now that the game's launched fully, and I think on Xbox One it's still, there's been reports that it doesn't run that great.
Yeah, the footage you'll be watching is Xbox One footage, because that's the version I played, and I'll admit it doesn't run well. It's pretty shoddy.
Well, I'm surprised, and I'm not surprised with Microsoft. I'm surprised that Microsoft have allowed that, but I'm not surprised because, you know, they want to make money.
They call it their game preview program, so like it's technically not actually fully released, but at the same...
Oh, right, I didn't realise that.
So it's a bit like, what does Steam have? They have it's Steam Greenlight, is that what it's called?
Early access, and Greenlight, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's basically their version of early access, where this game isn't officially released, but it is in terms of like you pay money for it. It's not like it's free or anything.
This is the age of gaming we live in now, and I don't think games are ever truly finished. I mean, Total War, they're still adding patches to that. It's funny, when I was growing up, I'd want a game the day it came out. Now, I don't want a game the day it came out, because it's going to probably be bugs and things, you know? It's nice to leave it for a month and then give you time to play other games, you know? I sound so old, don't I, Dan?
No. The days of just getting a game and just sticking it straight in and playing it on the day, that was it. That was the completed the game. If you found a bug, that was it. You're tough luck.
I will say as well, the other thing I like about PUBG is that you get out what you put in. So, for example, when I'm playing it, you know, to get into the top half of players, that's an achievement for me.
Yeah, definitely.
When I was a new player, and then if you're really good, you want to get in that top 10 or get chicken dinners and win, and you know, you can get new sense of achievement every time you play the game. You know, you can play in twos and play in teams and things as well.
Would you prefer to play in as a team, duo, or solo?
That's a good question. I think playing by myself probably, but I went to this NVIDIA Christmas networking event. They did twos. They did a tournament twos, and I took one of my friends friends along who's really good at the game, and I hadn't played 2s before, and we got right to the final. We almost won, and I was so gutted because the top prize was like a Nvidia gaming laptop, to come so close when it was down to a 1v1 duel between him and one of the other teams, and he had to reload, and then the guy got him when he was reloading. It was painful, but it was still so fun, and one of my top gaming moments this year, to be a part of that tournament. I just love the competitive side of gaming.
And there is no game like it where when you, like you say, you get down to the final lot, that thrill, that sense of adrenaline, I think is unmatched with any other game.
Yeah, and I love that feeling, but playing these games like League of Legends and PUBG, it gives me more anxiety, because I don't play them as much myself, but do the games in this top 5 need to be games I've played loads and loads myself? No, because I've watched a hell of a lot of PUBG, so there's this great community around it now, and we've got some good UK players as well in PUBG. For me, it had to be my number one because it had such an impact in the field I work in, and I enjoy playing it, but I probably enjoyed watching it more. But I do want to say as well at the end, Dan, I would probably have, from the reviews I've read, a couple of other games in here that I really like the look of, but I haven't had the time to play it, so I want to put a couple of notable mentions in. Resident Evil 7, I've played the demo and I loved the feel, so that would probably have knocked out Cuphead if I played Resi 7, if I had time to play it all the way through. And also Horizon Zero Dawn, I love the look of this game, but I don't have a PS4 yet, so I tend to play most of my games on my PC, but there's some nice exclusives on the PS4, and I feel like it's time for me to get one soon. The Uncharted games, Zero Dawn, there's loads of other games, so I want to give those 2 games a name check because I feel they should be mentioned as well.
Thanks again for coming on. Where is it people can find you?
Yeah, thanks again for inviting me on, Dan. It's been always a pleasure. My full-time job, I'm the comms guy at the British Esports Association, which is a not-for-profit organisation set up to promote grassroots esports in Britain, and we're doing a lot of exciting work with schools and libraries and things this year. We've got some good plans ahead. If anyone's interested in getting involved in esports, doesn't know where to start, you can contact us. Our website is www.britishesports.org. And then in my spare time, I've built up my own site, Esports News UK, over the past 2.5 years, which mainly covers news, articles, opinion, interviews and comment and things like that in UK League of Legends, and that's esports-news.co.uk. That's why I don't have much time to game, because I spend a lot of my time on Esports News UK, but it's my passion, I love esports. Not so much playing it these days because it's, like you say, so much adrenaline and everything, so I've gone back to World of Warcraft. But maybe next year we'll almost certainly have Battle for Azeroth in there, unless it's an absolute disaster of an expansion. The hype around that announcement is what pulled me back into World of Warcraft. I'm playing through Legion now.
I feel like that's always the case with most World of Warcraft players. It's like they sort of drop off, then when a new expansion comes out, or before it comes out, they get back into it just before the expansion comes out. And
you can never really quit. I thought I could be stubborn and break that, but no, it's true what they say. You can never quit.
All right, Dom. I guess until next year, thanks for coming on.
Thanks very much. Cheers, Dan.